Influential Sports, where passion meets precision. As I'm your host Ed, diving deep into the plays, players, and stories shaping the game. So, WWE, NXT versus TNA Showdown happened last night. I'm gonna be doing a recap of that. We're going match by match, and I'll start with the Hardys match because the Hardy Boys versus Dark State for the NXT and TNA tag titles. Both titles on the line. This was interesting, especially the way it started, because it's a usual Dark State match where they start matches where they all four members attack the tag team that they're facing. But then the referee ejected them, Cutler and Sugars from ringside, even though the match hadn't started. And we've never seen that with Dark State before, so I wonder what changed here. Because I don't know if they were banned from ringside to start the match, then this wouldn't have happened. So somebody lied about them being barred from ringside in the match regardless, unless there was a spoiler. But it didn't make sense that this is something that they typically do, and this is how they get ejected from ringside before the match starts. It just felt kind of weird. And it's also weird not seeing them implement the free bird rule where they have four members. You easily could say that one is injured and have Sugars get in the match, or have Color get in the match, whatever you want to do. But that hasn't applied with Dark State for some reason, which is very confusing. But the match started off pretty good after that. Once the match actually got started, seemed slower paced, but it actually fit well with this match with the Hardys being older. So them having slower paced matches makes sense. You had Team 3D front row for the match. Jeff had a double whisper in the wind, very impressive. And then deep into the match, it was a bad, last 2 or 3 minutes, it was a bad botch. I forget who that came from, but it was a very noticeable botch. And then the Hardy Boys were able to pull out the win, and now they hold both the TNA and NXT tag team titles. So their match against Team 3D is still on for the TNA tag titles. I would assume it's just for those titles, because the Team 3D, they don't need to fight for the NXT titles, but this is the first time the Hardys have won the NXT tag titles, which that just adds to their legacy. And this was a pretty decent match. It was just the way it started was very confusing, and then the bad botch at the end. But aside from that, this was a good match. I enjoyed it from start to finish. Then next you had Team NXT taking on Team TNA women with Jordan Grace as a special guest referee in the 4-on-4 Survivor Series style match. For Team TNA, you had Mara Sade, formerly known as Takara Jackson, had Kalani Jordan, and you had The Inspiration, formerly known as the Iconics. And then you had them taking on Team NXT, which consisted of JC Jane, Lola Vice, Jada Parker, and I'm forgetting somebody. JC Jane, Sol Ruka, double champ. So you got consistent of those four. And then the match got started with Kalani Jordan and JC Jane, both world champions of their respective brands. Well, Kalani world champion for TNA, not her brand, but you get the point. And she was with mixed reaction from the crowd with her being on Team TNA. And then it wasn't a turn, which I'm glad it wasn't, because Kalani Jordan being a heel wouldn't. I mean, I guess she portrayed a heel in this match with her side of Team TNA, or her actual character being a heel. It simply wouldn't work. NXT has already tested that out. So we've seen what that leads to. A more serious character has been working well for her, but there's no need for her to be heel, and her not turning actually makes sense, especially with the way that the match ended. Kalani Jordan and JC Jane got the match started, like I said. And then Lola Vice, she did a blind tag to JC Jane, which JC Jane seemed very confused by that, and that played a part in this match later on, which I'll get to. And then Lola Vice and Jada Parker actually did a great job working together. With the history that they have, they actually displayed great tag team chemistry, which was surprising that Jada Parker showed Lola Vice respect a few weeks ago. And they looked great working together in this match, which I was very surprised to see, because that was one thing I wasn't expecting. I was expecting more dysfunction out of this team, especially Lola Vice and Jada Parker, but they seem to be the two that work well the most together on Team NXT. And then Jordan Grace, she really just let all 8 women go at it. That was really doing their thing. The Inspiration, they went flying. And then there was follow-up by everybody else hitting suicide dives. And Sol Ruka did a moonsault outside the ring, or something similar to that. And then Team NXT started to build chemistry throughout the match. It was a rough start, but they built chemistry throughout the match. The Inspiration were going for a suplex on Sol Ruka, and she countered it into a double DDT. And then Jada Parker, she did the double high step to the inspiration, but then that allowed now Mara Sade, she overshot that moonsault like crazy, but she did end up she ended up rolling up Jada Parker to get the first elimination for Team TNA. So some people were mad about Jada Parker being the first elimination, but with how deep it was into the match, I don't think that was a bad choice, because it was either Jada Parker or Lola Vice had to be eliminated first. And I think it took a lot more. It took a lot more to eliminate Jada Parker compared to Lola Vice. So I think it works out for the best, because she was already worn down at that point. So I don't think her being eliminated first was bad. It's like it was either her or Lola Vice. Like whichever one of them was eliminated first or second, it really didn't matter, because Jada Parker had a good showing in the match. They both did. They both looked great in this match, Jada Parker and Lola Vice. I feel like they stood out on Team NXT to me the most. And then Soul Ruka did a soul snatch out of nowhere to Mara Sade as soon as she eliminated Jada Parker, and they were even up the odds, making it 3-3 now on both sides. Then Lola Vice came in, delivered some powerful kicks, and she was able to eliminate both of the inspiration back to back. Got I forget which one she got first, but she got one with the pin, then got the other with the submission, giving NXT the advantage once again. And it was a 3-on-1. So it's just it was Lola Vice, JC Jane, and Soul Ruka versus Kalani Jordan. And then this is where things got interesting, because Kalani Jordan, she was the ref, actually Jordan Grace got distracted by that's an inspiration. They were pissed they got eliminated by Lola Vice, so they grabbed her foot and tried to pull her off the ropes, and that distracted Jordan Grace. And Kalani Jordan had JC Jane pinned for a 3 count, and Jordan Grace was distracted, so she didn't see it to the last minute, which I don't know how that distracted Jordan Grace, because they already out the match. If anything, you should have other referees come out there and escort them from ringside or trying to get back involved, because that's usually how a typical Survivor Series match would go. So then it was just a 2 count for Kalani Jordan, and Kalani Jordan was pissed looking at Jordan Grace, costing her that elimination. That would have made it a one. That would have gave Kalani Jordan a 1-on-2, which it still be a disadvantage, but it wouldn't have been as tough as fighting 3 people. That should have been an easy elimination. But then Lola Vice and JC Jane, they constantly got into it throughout the match, which ended up costing Lola Vice, as she would get eliminated eventually by Kalani Jordan, which leaving it to a 1-on-2. And then Kalani did a Spanish fly to Soul Ruka, and Soul Ruka botched a soul snatcher badly. I don't know if that was, maybe Kalani Jordan wasn't in the right spot, but that looked bad. Whether who that was on, that was the only botch in the match. But that looked, it was still botches, because Mara Sade overshooting that moonsault was pretty bad too, which is probably why they had to go with the roll-up finish, because I think Mara Sade would have won off the moonsault if she didn't overshoot it so badly, so they had to go with the roll-up to eliminate Jada Parker early on in the match. But after Soul and Kalani botched that Soul Snatcher spot, JC Jane would tag in Soul Ruka to steal the win. So JC Jane ended up pinning Kalani Jordan. JC Jane and Soul Ruka ended up winning it for Team NXT to tie 1-1. NXT, TNA both tied 1 win apiece at this point. But this was interesting, despite the dysfunction in Team NXT, that they still, for the women's side, that they still end up getting a win. I don't think that really makes sense. If you have, because what does that say about TNA? And it came down to Jordan Grace making that crucial mistake. But at the end of the day, if NXT has this much dysfunction, especially between 2 people out of 4, it's 50% of the group. And it's like, I don't see how that, even Soul Ruka had, even at the end, like her and JC Jane weren't really getting along, even in the entrance. Soul Ruka, Jada Parker, Lola Vice, they all got along well during the entrance. But JC Jane, she just wanted the spotlight. So it's like, how do they work? How do they still win this match, even though it's dysfunction within the team being caused by 1 person? And then Fallon Henley wasn't even out there to support her. I mean, yeah, Fallon Henley not being out there for JC Jane was also a choice, I guess. Kind of confused by that. And then after the match, Soul Ruka, she helped up Kalani Jordan, and she hugged her after the match, which it makes sense, both baby faces, so I get it. Then JC Jane was kind of confused by that, and then Jordan Grace, she looked like she didn't want to raise Soul Ruka or JC Jane hand, She held up Solo Ruka's hand, but she looked even disappointed doing that. And then JC Jane forced her to put her hand up. It was a good match, but I feel like it's weird for a team with this much dysfunction to get the win. I know I said that a few times, but that don't really make sense, especially with how it ended. Because I think, because at this point, it's tied one apiece. TNA got one win, NXT got one win. It's like, I'm not surprised. It's weird. There was a few botches, it wasn't nothing too crazy. Overall, it was a very entertaining match, but that don't really make Team NXT getting the win. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around that. When TNA worked really well together, there was no problems with Team TNA. Like, they all got along. Jordan Grace made a terrible mistake as referee. But this next match is probably the match of the night. Ethan Page defending the North American Championship against Mustafa Ali. This was very entertaining. Ethan Page, he had Ali back to a corner and very early into the match. And then there was a few early pinfall attempts from both Ali and Page. Then after that, it calmed down a little bit. They both tried to, both had to refocus and do what they needed to do in order to get the win. And then Ethan Page tried to start along the outside for a little bit, but Ali wasn't going to let that happen. So then it was Ali, he was able to counter the Ego's Edge twice. One time he just countered it, and then the second time he countered it into a Hurricane Rana, if I'm not mistaken, or something similar to that. And then they had multiple no-sales too, like they went big boot for big boot. Now it's like, okay, this is getting interesting. And then Mustafa Ali hit a tornado DDT that nearly won him the match. Wasn't able to get the win, but it was a very near fall. And then where it really got tricky was when Ali's foot got stuck on it was Ali's suicide dive to Ethan Page on the announce table, which took out Booker T's headset, cut off his audio completely, and nearly killed Ali and Ethan Page. Then Ali's foot got stuck on the microphone cord. So when Ali tried to get back in the ring, and when he was on the top rope, he noticed it the last second, even though you were just walking with it. So how did you not notice that already? But Ali noticed that, and Ethan Page picked up on it, so he shoved him off the top rope, which was hilarious. Like, Ethan Page tried to kill this man. Then he dragged him back into the ring, able to pin him 1, 2, 3 to get the win and retain his North American Championship. This was probably the best match of the night. I've seen a few people say that, and I had to agree with it. This match didn't have any botches from start to finish. They told a great story in this match. Ethan Page and Mustafa Ali both did a great job. They both looked good, especially with a week build for this match. Like, just 1 week of build. They looked like they've been wrestling 5 or 6 times against each other. This was a very entertaining match. NXT now up 2-1. So now going into the main event is Team NXT, which consists for the men's side, which is Trick Williams, Javon Evans, Ricky Saints, and Miles Bourne, taking on Team TNA, which is Moose, and Frankie Kazarian, Leon Slater, and Mike Santana. And then you got Joe Hendry, a special guest referee, which Joe Hendry did something that I found very dumb, but luckily it was nothing else in the match that felt weird. So, well, let's just talk about how the match started before I get to the Joe Hendry thing. But the match started with Trick, and it was actually going to start with Javon Evans and Leon Slater, as they have a match at Bound for Glory in a few days, actually. And they were going to get the match started, but both Trick and Frankie Kazarian tagged themselves in, surprising their teammates. And then they just went back and forth. They were Frankie Kazarian and Trick. They did their thing. And then the whole TNA team, they just unloaded on Miles Bourne, which led to an all-out brawl breaking out. Joe Hendry just let it happen, same as what Jordan Grace did earlier. That's not the mistake I'm talking about with Joe Hendry, though. And then Frankie hit a cutter to Miles Bourne to eliminate him, which was super quick. I didn't expect him to get eliminated that fast, especially off a cutter. But it's something different, so I don't mind it. And then this where the mistake came in. Frankie Kazarian had, I forget, he was pinning Javon Evans, I think, and then he had his foot on the ropes. But Joe Hendry's eyes weren't even in the direction of where his foot was at. So he called out that Frankie's foot was on the rope after the fact that Javon had already kicked out. I was very confused on that. That didn't make sense to me because it wasn't physically possible for him to see Frankie's foot. So that didn't make sense. He wasn't even looking in that direction. But Leon Slater did an amazing job sold that kick from Trick very well. And then Um, yeah, and Javon, he saved Trick from elimination, which showed how much Javon cared for this team. Because Javon and Trick, they got their history, but Javon cares enough about the team NXT to try to get this win for NXT, not allowing TNA to take over. And then after that, Trick, he tagged in Javon to escape Mike Santana because he don't want to face him until Bound for Glory, which is justified, I guess. And then Javon Evans, he was doing his thing, and then Javon Evans coming out with the 6'7" shirt, with the 6'7" jersey. That's pretty funny, and it makes sense for his character. And then Leon Slater, he was able to roll up Javon Evans for a second elimination, giving TNA a 4-2 advantage in the matchup. And then Trick Williams, he refused to tag in Ricky Saints because before, when he was looking for the tag, Ricky was distracted on the outside fighting off Frankie Kazarian. And then once he was back on the ropes, back on the ring, Trick wasn't trying to tag him in, so Ricky tagged himself in. But that ended up leading to Trick just walking away. He didn't want to be a part of it. When Ricky Saints wanted to tag, Trick decided, I'm out of here, leaving it to a 1-on-4 with Ricky Saints having. He had back-to-back eliminations on Frankie Kazarian and Leon Slater. So he rolled up Frankie, then he reversed the Swanton. He got his knees up when Leon went for the Swanton 450, and he got back-to-back eliminations to make it a 1-on-2, matchup. But Moose and Mike Santana, Moose did spear Mike on accident due to Ricky moving out the way. But aside from that, Moose and Mike Santana worked very well together. They double-teamed Ricky Saints and were able to get the win for TNA. So it ended 2-2. So I don't get the purpose of, it's a showdown. It was supposed to be an invasion. My only problem is, why is it, if it's an invasion or a showdown, why is it split? Why is it 50-50? Somebody should have won 3-1. Unless they're going to do it at a pay-per-view, unless they do a part 2 of this at a pay-per-view, like, what's the point of splitting it 2-2? I don't understand that. If anybody want to let me know in the comments below, let me know what y'all think about them doing a 2-2 split on what was supposed to be an invasion, now a showdown. But it's like, isn't the point to prove that one brand is better than the other? Why not make this pay-per-view have 5 matches and have one brand win 4 matches, have the other brand just win 1? Or if you're going to do 4 matches, have one brand win all 4 matches, or do it 3-1. Like, having a split, like, I don't see the purpose of making it 50-50. Like, yeah, the Hardy Boys won the NXT tag titles, which is cool. Them being double champions, it makes sense. That was the only WWE tag title they never won, so that's actually perfect for the Hardy Boys and for their legacy. It's like the NXT women had the most dysfunction all night and still beat Team TNA women. And then Team NXT men, they lost because of the fact that they had dysfunction. So you have it be a 2-2 split, and Ethan Page, he should have retained. His reign shouldn't end in to Mustafa Ali, which I was surprised that Mustafa Ali didn't win, but I'm glad that he didn't. He can go win the X Division title again at some point. But I'm like, a 2-2 split, that's just very off-putting for what's supposed to be. You're having this up as a showdown to prove who's the better brand, and it just ends with a 2-2 split. Oh, that's kind of off-putting to me. Overall, I get a show a 9 out of 10. This was an awesome show. I really enjoyed it. Like, a lot of it was great action. It was pretty good storytelling. Like I said, Lola Vice and Jada Parker displaying good team chemistry was a surprise that I wasn't expecting. Mustafa Ali and Ethan Page having the best match of the night. Just having great in-ring chemistry, telling a good story in the ring. Ethan Page taking advantage of Mustafa Ali being caught up in the ropes. Just a smart heel tactic. Team NXT men's falling apart because of dysfunction. The rough spots with Jordan Grace and Joe Hendry, because it felt more real than the match, because Joe Hendry and Frankie, they got history with each other, so it felt like, even though he on Team TNA, I don't fuck with Frankie Kazarian regardless. And then Jordan Grace not wanting to raise the hand of NXT, like, that felt kind of real. I'm gonna make it short about the Jordan Grace thing, because I don't want this video to be too long. But yeah, I give Showdown a 9 out of 10. I enjoyed this show from start to finish. So make sure y'all leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, comment what y'all thought of NXT vs TNA Showdown, and share for others to see. Yeah, this was a fun show. Probably one of the best NXT episodes of the year, in my opinion. Hopefully they do a part 2 of this sometime in the future.